For starters, can you guys explain for my readers in layman's terms, if that's even possible, what this milestone or achievement that you guys have accomplished, what it is, and why it's important?
All right. Well, Tim, our project is really a three-component project, and it all centers around making the entire cycle of energy production, storage, and then subsequent delivery, make it cost effective, commercially viable, mm-hmm. and also distributed, meaning that it does not concentrate. Basically, we're interested in distributed power, meaning that power can be generated pretty much anywhere. And so what this project has is there's one project which actually produces hydrogen by means of wind energy, wind electricity that breaks down water and produces hydrogen. And then another project actually stores the hydrogen. We're starting with high pressure compression of the hydrogen for storage. And then the third one, which is the subject of the press release, is the actual utilization of the hydrogen in combination with another waste gas, which is biogas. And well, this is important because biogas is produced, certainly in Costa Rica, from essentially animal waste, eventually probably even human waste, and it is a fuel that it is viable. It's quite available, and nevertheless, when you burn biogas alone, it is not as efficient as if you were to mix it with small quantities of hydrogen. It makes the combination a better fuel, a better fuel for using in an internal combustion engine. And so that is essentially what we've achieved in this initial stage, is to actually mix the proper combination of a biogas with hydrogen and run it in an actual generator that produces electricity. And that's what this milestone is all about.
Okay. Tony, in terms of your company, Cummins, what is the significance for you, and how excited are you guys to have achieved, this milestone?
Well, for Cummins, what's interesting is the potential, as Franklin said, to unlock this cycle of renewable energy storage, waste recovery through biogas, and then generation of electricity. Mm-hmm. And so we really play in the last piece, which is how do we generate the electricity. We're excited to be part of the program, not because we think we're going to sell thousands of generators in the short term, but because we see this as one of the things we've been focusing on for the future, which is how do we get more involved in these renewable streams, but stay close to our core business, which is really about giving customers electricity when and where they need it. Mm-hmm. So we're excited about being able to be part of this, but also to be a key step in the chain here, that we can actually bring our technical resources to bear to actually work this problem, which is not, I won't say it's not rocket science, but it's not quite as impressive as going to the moon as Franklin has done, but it is important in this blending and understanding how do we optimize the efficiency of burning this biogas and hydrogen blend.
Sure. And speaking of that efficiency, that is something that's very interesting because, as you know, some of the criticism of both biogas and hydrogen previously as independent systems has been its efficiency. In terms of that, tell me about the efficiency of this system, and if it's commercialized or brought into production for the masses. What does it mean in terms of energy costs? Do you see this something being that could drive down energy costs? As you know, here, especially in Central America, a lot of business leaders are saying that the cost of energy here in Central America is affecting the region's competitiveness in the world. You guys see this potentially as being beneficial?
Let me address a little bit of the topic of efficiency, because it is really quite misunderstood. I mean, the thing about efficiency is where is the hydrogen really coming from, and how do you really make it? And typically in traditional hydrogen production, I mean, the hydrogen really comes from natural gas, and it is you take energy to actually make it, and that energy usually comes from some sort of a fossil fuel, which of course it makes it totally inefficient. What you have here that's different is that you are utilizing wind and solar power, which comes to you for free in essence. However, it only comes whenever the wind blows and the sun shines. And if you want to capture that energy, you need to store it somehow. How efficient it is? Well, it could be 50% or whatever, but it doesn't really matter because it's coming from the sun and from the wind. And so you're storing it, energy that you would otherwise basically lose. So when you add that to the equation, it does change the whole cycle. And then, of course, the biogas. The biogas is essentially methane, which is a byproduct of organic waste in decomposition. And methane happens to be a pretty bad greenhouse gas. And so here, what we would want to do is burn that methane in a more efficient way, so that we reduce its footprint on the atmosphere, but also extract more of its energy. This is the combination of these hydrogen methane. So you got to look at the entire cycle completely in this particular case.
I think, frankly, I think the key part of it, the hydrogen is essentially a form of energy storage in this cycle. And so we store it when the renewable source is available, and by having a generator, we use it when we need it. And then by mixing it with the biogas, what we essentially do is leverage the value of the hydrogen beyond. You could burn it as a straight fuel, just hydrogen. But by mixing it with the biogas, we can I don't know what the right concept is, bulk up, or it increases the effectiveness of the biogas. And so we can get more electricity per unit of hydrogen than we would just burning hydrogen by itself.
That's right, and it's about 20 to 80%. Is really the fractions that we're going to be playing with, something in that scale. About 20% hydrogen, 80% biogas, 15% hydrogen, and so on and so forth. So our next activity is essentially to characterize and optimize the system.
Has Cummins and Ad Astra collaborated in the past, and what really brought your guys' companies together for this particular project? It obviously seems like a natural fit, but were there other synergies, both for Cummins and Ad Astra, How did that come about?
Well, we had a visit. I guess I can't remember. Tony, you came here to Astra back in 2009 or so. There was a whole executive development group that came to visit our facility, and there was a lot of discussion about technology, essentially what we call raw technology. I mean, what's good for rockets may be also good for internal combustion engines. And we had a lot of conversations about different things. We talked about, initiating combustion inside an internal combustion engine with plasma. We are a plasma physics facility, and lots of different things. We are working with super hard ceramics, very high temperature materials, sort of lots of different things where technology is available for whatever you want to use it for. And if it makes sense, then that becomes a business. And so I think that was a bit of the genesis of it. And then, of course, my association with Cummins also has played a role. And we'll kind of see what happens.
Well, I think, Franklin, there's the other relationship through Earth University. That Cummins has had a relationship with Earth University for, John, help me here, probably 5 or 6 years.
That's right.
And that connection is also strong. And I think, I do believe that the genesis for this project was the group of executives who visited at Astra in 2009 to learn more about technology. And out of that came some ideas, and we've been working together with Astra on these ideas since then.
Right.
Yeah. And Tony, what's your experience been like working with the folks at Earth University and at Astra here in Costa Rica?
Well, it's been fascinating working with Astra because, as Franklin said, they're a company doing cutting-edge technology, the literal rocket scientists, right? They are literally rocket scientists. At the same time, they're a small company, and they're in Costa Rica, so they have an incredibly refined sense of cost and cost-effectiveness. But also, I think, credit to Franklin, an incredibly strong respect and concern for the environment. So there's a huge kind of comfortable overlap between Cummins' concern for the environment and Astra's. And we are in very different fields of technology, as Franklin was saying, but there's been a tremendous amount of mutual respect between the people involved. And with Earth, Earth brings this huge benefit of practicality, cost-effectiveness, and simplicity to kind of everything. They keep grounding you with, keep it simple, keep it straightforward, keep it good for the environment and good for the, there's very focus on how do we make things effective for low scale, farm size, house size, consumer size, not always industrial size, which is where Cummins typically comes from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that leads me back to sort of the developing world a little bit, countries here in Central America. It seems that the technology that you're working on would be very applicable here in the region. Franklin, can you tell us a little bit about what you see for both energy problems and energy solutions, both here in Costa Rica as well as Central and Latin America as well?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I mentioned to President Obama when I visited with him in Washington, he was planning his trip to Costa Rica and Mexico, is that the energy equation is, that is applicable to Central America may be very different from the energy equation that's applicable to Mexico and, of course, the United States. I mean, so produces a very large amount of energy, fossil fuels, oil producers, whereas Costa Rica and Central America does not really have those kinds of resources. So the solution is different. Also, the boundary conditions are also different. For example, if you want to have a car that is viable in the United States, the car has to have a range of the order of 300 to 400 miles. We don't need such vehicles with such ranges in Central America because the countries are very small. So we got to start looking at niche applications, and so that's one of the key issues. The other one is Costa Rica is planning to be carbon neutral by 2021. This is a very tall, very ambitious goal. I'm not sure that they'll be able to meet that goal, but we're certainly pushing hard to get there. And this is one way. 90+% of the electrical energy that Costa Rica produces is supposed to be, carbon renewable energy. But the transportation is a whole other matter. And we got to tackle that issue, head on, and that's what we're trying to do here. Also, with moving into the transportation, we don't know quite what are going to be the perfect outcomes here, but we're certainly moving into an exploratory mode.
From Cummins' perspective, and building on what Franklin had said, it is my hope that in addition to technical innovation, that we could work with the government and the utilities in Costa Rica to look at economic innovation as well. Because I think, to Franklin's point, that not only is the energy equation different, but I think the economic equation is different as well. And